Hi, and welcome to Humble and Hungry. My name is Emily, and here on Humble and Hungry, I'm exploring the small, intentional things we can do to lead happier and healthier lives. Now, a key tool for me living a happy and healthy life is having a great support system. So, today we're going to explore why having a support network is beneficial and how you can be supportive. Now, this is a very special edition of Humble and Hungry because it's the sister edition. I'm so excited to introduce you to my sister Caitlin and my sister-in-law Dana, who are key supporters in my life, and they're going to join us and talk about how they support their friends and families and what support they like to receive from others. Now, I know having a good support system is beneficial to me, but is it valuable to everyone? With the research I did, I found that having a support system is absolutely valuable to everyone. According to the Mayo Clinic, having a good support system promotes lifelong good mental health. Everything from coping with stressful situations to really alleviating the effects of emotional distress. It even can help you physically by lowering the cardiovascular risks, such as lowering your blood pressure and promoting healthy lifestyles and behaviors. The University at Buffalo School of Social Work published a lot of research on the tremendous benefits of having a network of supportive relationships. They really focused on the impact it makes on your well-being. But I wanted to focus on one very specific thing they shared, which is that having a support system not only buffers stress, but friends can help you identify when you are stressed or distressed before you may notice it yourself. I thought this really spoke to the value and significance of having a support system in your life. So with this in mind, I'd like to introduce you to two of my favorite support system members, and that is my sister Caitlin and sister-in-law Dana. So let's dig right in. I am so excited to welcome two of my favorite guests to Humble and Hungry, and that's because today I get to introduce you to my sisters. I have my sister Caitlin with us and my sister-in-law Dana. And welcome both. Thank you for being here. I wanted to have you guys on for a long time because a big part of Humble and Hungry, the platform, is for how women can also support one another and how you can be a good support system. So I thought, what better way is it to introduce this idea than my biggest supporters, my sisters. So my sister Caitlin, again, my sister-in-law Dana, and then my sister-in-law Mary Ellen couldn't be with us, but of course is included too. So I thought I would get started by introducing you guys to a little bit about Caitlin and Dana. They're both wonderful sisters and support systems to me, but also to their friends. And they're both go-to people for, I think, everyone they know. So I thought they'd be really valuable to have on and to learn from. So of course, I can't do it without doing a little bit of teasing. So we're going to start with some rapid fire questions so you can get to know a little bit about Caitlin and Dana. So I have a couple quick questions and then we can really dig in. Does that sound good, girls?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. First question. What is your favorite friendship song or friendship theme song?
Spice Girls.
you know, oh my God.
You want to be my lover. You got to get with my friends.
Yes, I love that. What's the one, Wilson Phillips from Bridesmaids?
Yes, hold on.
At the end. Yes, I love that one.
Love it. Very good. Okay, what is your ideal girls' night?
Okay, so I'll go first. I think this kind of speaks to the season of life that I'm in right now, but I really do love dressing up and going out with my friends, even if it's just to a dinner for an hour. It just kind of makes me feel like the old me. And I love, dressing up, going out, having a glass of wine, and just straight up girl talk.
Sounds lovely. Caitlin?
I totally agree with that. And if I'm not doing something like that, because generally speaking these days, girls' night has to end by like 9:00 or, the world's going to end. But if not something like that, I love doing like a spa day with my girlfriends or, pedicures, stuff like that. But you always need time to catch up.
I think we should all participate in these activities together soon. But okay, third question. What are your favorite either women empowerment or like mom empowerment Instagram accounts to follow, and why? Ooh. There's a lot of good ones out there, and I feel like everybody's always sharing, especially moms are always sharing stuff with each other. So what are your favorites?
Well, I follow a lot of like sorry, Caitlin. I think mom empowerment, I follow like the mom activity kind of accounts. They just give me a little bit of inspiration when I'm feeling like, I want to turn the TV on for 8 hours straight. So Busy Toddler, I love Motherhood, and Days with Gray.
Those are all really good. I like, this isn't exactly, quote unquote empowerment, but I love Janet Lansbury, and she's got a great podcast. She has a great Instagram account, and I really love the whole respectable parenting philosophy. And then I need some humor too. So like Ramblin' Ma, I think is one that is hilarious.
Oh, I don't follow that.
Yeah. It's mostly memes and stuff like that, but it's, it just helps you get through the day.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks. Thanks, guys. So that was our fire round of questions, just to get to know you a little bit. But I want to go now into kind of a conversation why I brought you here, and really just like friendship, support systems, and how to support other women. So like I mentioned before, you're both really go-to people for a lot of people in your lives. And I've always known that about both of you. So this sounds like a very simple question, but why is it important to you to be a good friend to your loved ones?
Being a good friend kind of just fills my cup. I want people to know that I'm thinking about them, and to remember that they could reach out to me maybe when they're having a moment in the day where they want to vent or they have a question. Not that I always have the answer, but someone that is going to be there and answer if it's just a text or a phone call. I try to be a friend that, picks up the phone when someone's calling, and just having that really is fulfilling for me, knowing that I have a network that depends on me and I depend on them.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I think, being a good friend, I think what is, the best part about friendship is just those bonds and the emotional strength you can draw from your girlfriends and the people in your life, your family. And it's so many things in life are so difficult. Parenting, work life, there's so many things that are so difficult. So it's really nice to have something that you've done your whole life in terms of supporting your friends that you kind of know you can do, and it's fulfilling, and it's it's really meaningful, and it kind of puts everything else in perspective.
And I feel like you're both very natural at that. And being someone who depends on both of you, I never think it's awkward or it's strange, or it's just obviously a very a natural, because it is a skill supporting someone. It is a skill. It is something you have to probably work on in a way. So I think it's really cool that you're both so wonderful at it. Which will take me right into my next thing I wanted to talk about was, on Humble and Hungry, I've talked all about my journey from weight loss and infertility through pregnancy and all different things. And you guys have both been there with me through all of that. You've related to some parts of it. You haven't related to other parts of it. But how can you stay a present and helpful friend, regardless of the situation, when you may or may not relate to someone?
I've been reflecting a lot on this, just knowing the topic of conversation that we're going to be talking about. And it's funny because the things I think about for advice about supporting friends are kind of everything the opposite that I did for you as, my sister. I think about, I try to, I try to stay focused on the person and not make it about myself, or I try to not problem solve for the person, but just be really present and listen. And I feel like, when you came to me with some of these things, I just immediately burst into tears and said, I could do this, I could do this. And, it's just kind of funny, but I think it's really boils down to listening. And I think that you have to really be able to stay in those moments with a person, even if they're uncomfortable, even if you don't fully understand. It's just really about being there and them feeling that you are, trying to connect.
Yes, I agree completely. When you are trying to support someone that's going through something or experiencing something that maybe you haven't experienced yourself, I think that listening is number one, because the person that you're talking to, the friend that you're talking to, the sister that you're talking to, doesn't necessarily want advice. They're just kind of either venting or wanting to talk about their experiences. So, and I can't solve a problem that I've, have no experience with. But I think also it helps to ask questions. If I am not familiar with someone's weight loss journey or what the tools that, they need to have, if we're going out to dinner, asking, is the menu okay? Things like that. I have found to just acknowledge that that person is kind of going through a challenging time or going through a specific journey. I think knowing that someone else is aware is hopefully comforting enough to know, like, okay, I'm not in this alone. I might be kind of on this journey by myself, but I have support from people in my circle.
Right. Like people just want to feel like a presence from their loved ones, not necessarily like need all the answers. So that makes sense. That makes sense. And different people need different things too. Like I'm sure like you're probably both thinking of your different friends and your different sister-in-laws and your different, like everybody needs different things.
Yeah. I think it's okay to ask sometimes too. If you don't know, it's okay to ask and say, how can I best support you through this? Like, how do you want me to show up for you? And I think that, if however you can communicate, it's better to over communicate than under communicate.
Yes, I agree. Saying, how can I support you rather than just, I support you, I think speaks volumes and really shows that you are making, an effort to, be there with them for the journey.
Yeah. It's like that. There's that quote, like you might not remember what people said, but you'll always remember the way people make you feel. Or I messed that up, but you know what I mean? You remember the way people make you feel. And I feel like you're both like the kinds of people that make people feel so supported and so good. And I think that's really special. So what do you find supportive and helpful from your friends and loved ones? Like if you're like, do you like when people like you, Caitlin, you said when people ask what kind of support you need. So that's like one tactic, I guess. But what kind of support do you guys like? Like phone calls, checking in? What helps you?
I appreciate a check-in. I guess it depends on what it is. But like when I had newborns at home, like a simple like drive-by from a local friend, like, oh, I left donuts on your porch, or things like that, like little things that don't really seem like a big deal to maybe to somebody else, but knowing that someone's thinking about you, someone's just checking and saying, how's it going today? I mean, that opens up a whole can of worms sometimes, but knowing that that person on the other end is going to say the same thing to you tomorrow and the next day, knowing that they're just checking in, they're not going anywhere. It's not, an empty question. I appreciate those check-ins.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really big. I think just it's just the little things that are the most impactful. It's whether it's just like a quick text, how's your day? Um, if it might be just remembering something that, if when someone remembers something that I have, coming up and they're, are you ready for X, Y, and Z? It just, it just makes you feel, just loved. And I think those kind of small gestures, I think, are the most important.
Yeah. And when we talk about people that are going through like large scale like journeys, like that I went through with like losing all this weight and then, trying to get pregnant and all these things that kind of take a long time and take a lot out of people. For women who are supporting someone in this situation right now, like how do you suggest people can be present without draining themselves though, like while still protecting their own, time and, their own self? How can you be present in such like a long journey and still stay with your cup full, as Dana said? How can people do that?
Yeah, it's really, it becomes a challenge when somebody goes through something that doesn't necessarily have an end date, and you don't really have any way of anticipating it wrapping up, or it just might be just the new normal for them for a while. And I think, I try to do things like, if there are, key dates along the way, if be it a doctor's appointment, or if it's a weigh-in, or if it's whatever it might be, I try to jot those down somewhere or stick them in my, phone calendar or something. So I know I don't have to be sort of hyper vigilant all the time and, constantly have it on my mind, but I have come up with a way of, remembering, I might have to compartmentalize this, to manage the day to day, but I'll, remember that to get back to this person definitely by this day, or, something like that. And sometimes just little gestures, like Dana mentioned earlier, doing like donuts or something like that. Sometimes I like to just send somebody like a random little something, just, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm here. And it doesn't have to be anything over the top, but just like a little something that makes me think of them. And I don't know, those are a couple of things that come to mind.
It doesn't need to be heavy. It can just be like sweet.
I agree. I think it's the little things, knowing that the person that you're supporting knows that you're going to be there, and checking in on like a weekly basis if there is like a weigh-in happening or something, and being able to celebrate the victories, but also be supportive when, the news is, not as celebratory. Knowing that you're there for the highs and lows, I think is rewarding, knowing that you're there to celebrate the fun things, but also you're going to be there for the person to kind of support them when they're feeling a little down. There are a lot of situations in life where, there are tragic losses and you don't know exactly what that friend or family member is experiencing, but just saying, I'm here. And also, a text, I think, is good when you're not exactly sure if the person is ready to talk. But I think sometimes a phone call, even if it's leaving a voicemail, speaks volumes, because then that person can get back to you when they're ready, but they have your voice saying, just checking in, I'm thinking about you today, I love you, we'll chat soon. Not putting any pressure on, but calling and saying like, hey, I'm taking the time out of my day and I want to see how you are, I think is really important to do from time to time.
Something valuable about phone calls too is that it's not just you're giving them the time, but it's also like you're willing to be uncomfortable. Like texts are so much more comfortable. So it's like, I'm willing to call you and do this and go through this.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I always find like that to be really valuable. Do you guys ever Google how to support people or like how,
Oh, absolutely.
like what to say?
I haven't, and maybe I should, because sometimes I just kind of ramble. But I haven't. I've kind of just been like a gut reaction a lot of times. And luckily, for the most part, it's turned out okay. But yeah, there are a lot of situations in life that, you know, my loved ones have experienced that I don't have personal experience with, you know, luckily. So actually, maybe I have Googled in past times. But
it's not usually helpful. Like I panic if something like, you know, if there's something that really awful or that has happened that I'm like, oh my God, what do I say? I'll panic Google. But usually like Dana, like what you were saying, like usually you just got to go with your gut and speak from your heart, you know,
right.
Google can't do everything.
Right.
I feel like I read suggestions on Google and then been like, I'm not going to say that, but I will say this. It like it makes me like just like think about it more actively.
Right.
Like, you know, like I'm going to rewrite this in my own way, but it's helpful.
Max is up. Sorry, Max is up and he's crying.
Oh, hi, Max.
Sorry. I'm going to have to step away for a minute.
Okay, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. For those of you who don't know, Max is my adorable, perfect nephew who is apparently awake. But so the other thing I was going to talk about was just how like right now, like people watching are going through, you know, supporting people who are in different like journeys, like we've been talking about. And also there's things like sicknesses and losses and things like that, but also just life. Like right now it's COVID, everything's a mess. We always say how there's no good decisions. Like every decision sort of just like a shot in the dark sometimes, because like the alternative isn't great either. So how can women like be easier on each other, or not even easier on each other, but like support each other through whatever it is they're doing? Because like most circles of friends, people are making different decisions from each other, or, you know, evaluating things for their own situations differently. So like, what's your perspective on like how women should just like treat each other right now?
Yeah, I think that I kind of think your instinct about saying like be easier on each other. I think that there's really something to that. I think that I think in less stressful times, especially with your close friends, you have a comfort level, so you have more of a knee-jerk reaction is just say like what you would do in the situation, regardless of what it, you know, that other person might be doing, or you know, you might not handle things as delicately. But I mean, right now in the world we're living in, everything feels really high stakes, and every decision is really people agonize over on what the best thing is for their kids or their family. And so I do think trying to hold a little space and just really be cognizant of that when you are, you know, hearing from a friend that's trying to make a decision or has made a decision, I think is really important. I think that, you know, we all have to be, you know, really respectful of one another's feelings right now. So I don't know.
And you have to like really think about how situations are different from like household to household, or because sometimes something that seems easy on paper for one family or one friend or one person is so different. And there's so much pressure to think the right way right now, or like be doing the respected thing. And
oh, sure.
And it also makes all the other journeys in life so much harder. So it's like, oh, like, let's say someone right now is trying to lose weight and is going through putting all this stress on themselves and like going through this really impossible journey, but they're doing that while wondering if they should get the COVID booster, or wondering if they should, like, you know, wear a mask to work, or all these different things. So at the end of the day, the people that really like affect your support system and like how to get you through all of that. So it's scary. It's scary to be out there right now, especially as women and especially as families.
Yeah, it is. It's, everything is sort of hypercharged right now. And I think it's important to remember to empathize with other people's situations and try to put yourself in their shoes and just really offer support and not additional stress, because no one needs additional stress right now.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I'm really impressed because I feel like, myself included, but this group here are all criers and I didn't get too emotional and nobody had tears.
It's a miracle. I've literally spent like the 10 minutes before hopping on this call saying, do not cry. Do not cry.
I purposely didn't make any of the questions or too emotional, but it is really special because I'm sharing this whole journey with my audience. Some people I don't know at all. Some people have followed me since I started losing weight. And then other people are just friends that know me and follow. So to say, oh, you need to have support. Oh, I have all the support or did is one thing, but to kind of get to introduce like two of the main people in my life, like my sister and my sister-in-law, is special. And it's so cool because I'm so lucky to have you guys, but also I hope it inspires other women to like be a better friend or take out a new task or maybe think of something differently. And also a lot of women on Instagram specifically support each other and are doing this stuff virtually. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody like relates to it at all in that way. Dana, how's Max?
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
He was having growing pains. So he was hysterical. I apologize.
Don't apologize. Don't apologize. My last thing I was just talking about that we can go back to real quick was that right now it's such like a stressful time just in life. So whether it's people are on like a journey, like a wellness journey, or they're going through like a loss or a sickness or whatever it is, doing all of that during COVID is so much harder. And being like friends who are supporting friends are also really stressed out. So it's just like a tough time. So I was asking Caitlin, like, what's like the message to like women out there right now? What can women do to make life easier for each other?
It sounds very cliche, but we're all in this together. When we were in quarantine last year, it was almost like we're all stuck in our houses with these young kids, many of us trying to work and manage it all. And you just could do what you could do every day. And we are all in this together still, especially as women, as mothers, no matter what the makeup of your family is, women take it all on. I was saying last night at a function for one of the organizations that I'm involved in that I have just had this pressure on me to say yes to everything, especially now, even like kind of on the tail end of COVID when things are picking up and we've missed out on so much. So you're just saying yes to every opportunity that you get, and it's now kind of all piling on. So, just taking it day by day, reach out to a friend if you kind of need some advice about how to cope with something or just to talk. And most likely that friend is going to be like, I get it. I'm there too. This is how I cope. This is how I carve out some time for myself. Emily, you've talked about mindfulness on, this platform before. Just carving out some me time, whether it be exercise or meditation or taking a walk or whatever. I think that is really important for us all to do for our mental health.
Yeah. And like when you say like carving out time, like pushing that even further is like reminding people they don't have to do everything, right. Like this whole, like the grind thing. It's like, that's not like what you need to do. And I know I've been trying to like tell myself that more and more, like taking a break is actually powerful. Taking a break or stepping away a little is good. So it's like all good things to like remind people. So is there anything else you guys want to share that we haven't talked about, or is there anything in preparation for this you thought I was going to ask that we didn't talk about? Dana, when you stepped away, I was telling Caitlin, I'm so impressed that I got through this without crying myself or having either of you cry.
That is pretty impressive, thinking about all of us.
Because I prepared to make this as unemotional as it could be for an emotional topic.
Every time I've seen you recently, I've cried, but luckily it was all happy tears and all good things. So I think it is important to celebrate the big things and the little things in life, and just kind of giving yourself grace and taking a moment. I think it's one of those things sometimes where people aren't going to give you permission to do something. You just have to take it. And as long as you have your partner, whoever's supporting you, their kind of cooperation, you don't need their consent. I heard something like that, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. You don't need permission to take time for yourself or do something that makes you happy. You just kind of need someone else's cooperation if you have children or you're trying to manage something. So I think that's important for us all to do, is you have to be your biggest advocate, but knowing that you have a network of people that support you is, you know, next in line and really important.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you guys so much for being here and for doing this. I'm so excited to introduce you to my whole YouTube and Instagram fam. You're so special to me, and I'm so lucky to have you both. So thank you for being here, and I love you so much.
Thank you for having us. Love you.
You too.
All right, thanks, guys. Thank you so much to Caitlin and Dana for joining me here on Humble and Hungry. Now, if this conversation has you thinking about how you can be more supportive, I wanted to share some really simple tips or really reminders on how you can be a good supporter to your loved ones. First, just being present in people's lives, staying in touch. Remember to just answer people's phone calls, return their emails, and make sure that you are just showing that you're present and that you care. You don't need to overdo it, and you shouldn't overdo it. You don't want to overwhelm people. You just want to show that you're there and can be found when people need you. Next is a really interesting tip that's really important, and that's don't be competitive. Be happy instead of jealous when your friends succeed. Celebrating together will make people feel really supportive and will remind you that you're there for the good and the bad. Now, I think we're saving the best for last here, because I think a very important tool to be a good supporter is being a good listener. You don't want to just hear what your friends are saying, but you want to actively listen, ask questions, and show that you really care about what's important to them. Another really important part of this conversation is how to build a support network. If you're listening to this conversation and you find that you really want to build out your own support network, let's talk about how you can do that. Of course, it's meeting new people. So you may want to just get to know your neighbors and colleagues better. Enhancing those relationships may be really fulfilling for you. And if you want to meet new people altogether, there's some great ideas. You can always volunteer. Volunteering, identifying a cause that's really important to you may help you find people who have similar values and similar interests to you. So volunteering's great. Taking up a sport or joining a gym is really a great way to meet people while also having physical benefits, of course. And something like joining a professional organization is a great way to meet someone. And last but not least, I mean, we're here online doing this episode. So remember all of the social networking sites where you can meet people. There are sites designed to really meet friends and to learn from people and communities that you've never known about before. So take advantage of all of the social networking you can do too to build a support system. It's time now for our Humble and Hungry Happy Thoughts. I want to wrap up this episode with 2 quotes that really resonate with me on how to be a good, supportive friend or loved one and how to be present. So first, this quote by Glennon Doyle. In all my close friendships, words are the bricks I use to build bridges. To know someone, I need to hear her, and to feel known, I need to be heard by her. The process of knowing and loving another person happens for me through conversation. And last but not least, I want to share this quote with you. Sometimes we need someone to simply be there, not to fix anything or do anything in particular, but just to let us feel that we are cared for and supported. Thank you so much for joining me here on this episode of Humble and Hungry. We'll see you next time.